Hello and welcome to the Order 66 Sons of the Order podcast, recorded at 111 South Chestnut Street, McKinney, Texas. I am Lainey.
I'm Chuck.
Joey.
Liam.
Robert. And this is side 3 of the White House.
And this is Jeff. And we're basically back talking about what makes action figures, in particular Star Wars figures, as valuable as they are.
I write the price guide.
Fixin' to. Yep.
That's why all my favorites are going up in
fixes
price.
live in
Fixes
Texas.
live in Texas.
That was my line.
You knew we had to put that in there, guys. Well, let's get back to it. Even in 1977, the action figures produced by Kenner and Hasbro for the Star Wars line, these were incredibly hard to get. And as we left episode 7, Chuck was discussing or telling us about how difficult they were to find, even when he was around shopping for these.
Before we get into that, Robert, what was your name for episode 8?
Episode 8, Force Hits the Snooze.
That's good. It's a good one.
Disney's listening right now.
Disney is listening.
That's why this is a two-parter, folks.
Episode 9, Force gets his ass out of bed.
No, figures. The reason why they're so valuable is because there is such a demand for them. People have a genuine want to reconnect with their childhood. And their favorites become the ones that are most desirable, and a lot of people have the same favorites. The big characters in some of the films and the books, and as Liam and Robert pointed out, the video games and a lot of the obscure figures from the what's known as the expanded universe have become very collectible because they haven't really done a lot of them.
Well, when the original rumors was that, or when the original rumors for episode 7 came out, and they started discussing Mara Jade and Thrawn, the Clone Emperor, some of the possibilities that episode 7 could go in, here at the store we saw a huge increase in the sale of those figures, especially the Mara Jade figures.
Yeah, well, a lot of the part is what's been happening with the Star Wars universe as of late is Disney is redoing the continuity. So all the previous expanded universe material is now being called Legends, which is a different universe, but it's not tying into what's happening with new projects such as Episode 7 and the Rebels stuff. So the fact that Disney's not going to be producing any more of these characters is definitely driving up the prices and the popularity of these characters that you might not ever be able to see again.
Absolutely.
Especially
How many of y'all, I'll just throw a simple question out there. How many of y'all went into like an antique mall or a place where they sold assorted older items? There was a name for them. What's
Flea
the name?
market.
Oh, flea
Head
markets,
shops?
flea market,
Oh,
stuff like that. And you see, anything that's marked with the Star Wars logo automatically has a higher price. Have you all noticed that?
Yeah, well, the problem with that is everybody thinks that everything is Star Wars is valuable all of a sudden, because
Excellent point.
But isn't it, though?
no,
Not really.
no, far from it.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the resurgence of collections of collectibles of the action figure line in 1995 with the red carded Power of the Force figures. I guarantee you, in a week, if I get 10 phone calls, 9 of them will be over the Power of the Force figures from 1995. And the reason for that is because all of the people that were around from 77 to 83, 84 that collected the original figures, they felt as though they missed out on the collectibles market, on buying those figures that are now worth potentially a lot of money. So in 1995, when the movie started coming back out, and they were re-releasing episode 4, 5, and 6, they released the figures once again in 95. Everyone bought into them. And they were smart enough to keep these figures in boxes and controlled cases and climate controlled. But the problem was everyone had hundreds and thousands of them.
So it just goes back to supply and demand. The older figures are rare because everybody played with them, junked them, threw them away, whatever. But now, if everybody's collecting, then it's not special anymore.
Right.
But you know what, though? They did a lot of different variants to those figures. And some of the figures are still hard to get from those collections because they didn't really do a lot of them. And when I say that, it's relative to how many people are actually collecting them or want them today. Because there's a lot of times where, like we have a hard time keeping them in stock here because they get bought up very quickly. I mean, we sell them at a price that is usually below anybody else out there. And we do that just because that's one of the things that we're afforded to do based on how we buy in our buying structure for those particular figures.
So now I understand why we have the 766 wall.
The 766 wall are all of those items that were purchased from 95 almost to current, that although they're good figures, they're good characters. And you can find Darth Vader, you can find Luke Skywalker, Leia, or even some of the newer guys, Qui-Gon and...
Not Boba Fett.
not Fett.
Well, not Fett and not Grievous and not Ahsoka. With every generation of toys, there's always going to be a couple that are a little bit more desirable or a little bit harder to find. But for the most part, the figures on the wall are $7.66, which is cheaper or less expensive than your big box stores and your Toys R Us, items like that.
You said, I wanted to talk about something you touched on in just a moment, is how genius Lucasfilm was in bringing back Star Wars. Because with Episode 1 coming out, they definitely wanted to bring Star Wars back in a way that people would latch onto. And so what they did is in 1991, they had the Thrawn trilogy started being produced by Timothy Zahn, who wrote these novels that became very popular. They topped the bestseller list. And then in 95, they reintroduced the action figure line. And then in 1996, you had Shadows of the Empire, which, for you who don't know, Shadows of the Empire was basically a movie without a movie. They created this, they had a video game, they had a novel, they had the toy line, they had the comic book series, and they all touched on the same story of what happened between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And then in 1997, they did the re-release. So by that time, the public was just reintroduced to the Star Wars brand and the Star Wars logo. And I think a big part of that was because of what we were talking about with the Power of the Force figures.
Yeah, it was genius the way it was reintroduced into the store shelves and into the movie theaters, re-releasing the films and actually giving them an upgrade. A lot of people don't agree with the upgrades. I personally do not, for the most part, agree with the changes that have happened to the original films. But it's, we have...
That's another podcast.
We have two versions of the films now, or more versions in some cases.
4 versions, essentially.
Yeah.
Because you got the 2004 re-release and then the 2011 Blu-ray.
Right.
Yeah, every time it's been officially released, tweaks have been made along the way. Then you can get into the whole subject of fan edits and
Which
all
we
that
definitely need
stuff.
to talk about that at some
Yeah,
point.
if
But
not
the whole
checked
thing
out.
is the way they reintroduced it was genius in that it made people, for some people it's like, I don't need to see it again. It's like, well, no, it's new. It's a reinvention.
No.
And it got everybody juiced up to
bring
why they
that-
love Star Wars.
Bring that all back around to the toys again. Because there are figures that were introduced from, say, The New Hope, from Episode 4. There were characters and creatures that were put into these,
New lines.
into the new lines
never been made before.
that have never been made before. So we have new characters that are always being reproduced or brought out into the marketplace, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it's like you have in Episode 4, you have Vader choking Admiral Motti, right? Well, they never thought to do an Admiral Mahdi figure to kind of recreate that, and that was one of the most iconic things that happened in '77. Vader choking out one of these high-ranking officers just because he happened to say the wrong thing to him.
Yeah.
And they never thought of doing a figure up until these newer lines. And
Well,
I
it's
think
because they
that's-
took a serious look at the movies, and then they started coming out with the cinema scenes. So they were redoing the cinema scenes. They were giving the kid or child the opportunity to redo these themselves using the characters,
Right.
which is genius. So we kind of touched a little bit on availability, desirability. One of the other things we brought up in episode 7 was location. So it was always important. Well, I won't say it was important. It was always interesting to see what was available on the East Coast versus the West Coast, what was available in the South as opposed to the North, and the items that were overseas and available over there also, or in other countries. So, anyone want to kick that off?
Well, in the South, we had Billy Bob Vader.
Billy Bob Vader?
Yep.
Absolutely. Carrying around his Billy beer?
Yep.
I think
So
it's
that
interesting
was,
to see people's collections because, like, I saw this one guy's collection that had nothing but Darth Vader figures. And it was, a collection that had spanned all the way from '77 to now. And it was a massive, and I mean, when I say there was nothing but Vader, it was nothing, not a R2-D2 to be found, not a stormtrooper, nothing. And it was a massive collection. It filled up like half his house. And it was just Darth Vader figures and, figural type things like a toothbrush holder and such and a phone.
Nice.
But it was a massive collection. Then other people have done that with the droids. Other people have done it with just the stormtrooper because they happen to be a member of the 501st. We have a friend
Mike.
that is a friend of the store that has, he just does Imperial stuff, but mostly based around stormtroopers because he is a member of the 501st. He has his
Absolutely.
own armor. And when he's not wearing the armor to events and doing charity events, he actually has a mannequin that he puts it on as part of the centerpiece of his collection. So I think it's really cool. So, I mean, it's really interesting to get to see people's collections and how, what speaks to them. And that really determines a lot of, why they're going to the shops and like here and other places to buy these items.
Well, one of my favorite people is
James?
not only James
Oh, it's Laney.
Laney.
and Laney, but one of my favorite people is Dana Palmer, who is
I love Dana.
is kind of a friend of the stores. He actually is an attorney, a local attorney here in McKinney, who had an office right next door to the old store. And when you walked into Dana's office, all that he had was Darth Vader figures. And anytime I ever went to his office, I always brought him a Darth Vader. And he just loved it. So how could you not love an attorney whose favorite character was Darth Vader? I mean, that's the guy I want on my side.
Me too.
Lionel Hutch.
Lionel Hutz. Is it Hutz?
You know what?
We've lost him again.
My mother-in-law is an attorney, and I still love her.
Sorry.
That's
Did you have something to add, Liam?
Well, we're talking about
What was that, Leo?
What level are you at?
we're talking about the popularity of
Mannequins?
we're talking about the popularity of the Power of the Force figures and how that was really the first time we got to see the Star Wars figures in some time. And I guess the modern equivalent of that is the Black Series, which is the first series of figures produced under the Disney logo. And,
Absolutely.
And that's similar to how the Power of the Force is. That's popular because you're getting people interested in the franchise again because of Episode 7 coming out and Disney producing new content and doing the comic books and doing Rebels.
And again, what I see is I saw a guy that had for sale, I don't know why he was selling them, but he had 80 stormtroopers, 6-inch stormtroopers for sale. And they were all loose. So this guy, whatever it means, there's only one of those per case out of a case of 4. Somewhere along the way, he picked up 80 stormtroopers, opened them up, displayed them for whatever reason, and then now is selling them on the secondary market as loose figures. So there's 80 figures that are just
No,
no longer in the package.
Well,
We
that's
did
like
have-
that huge collection that we
Absolutely.
have right here at the end cap, we've got everything in there, and they're all loose, and it was what, a photographer?
It was a
Yeah, the Dallas
photographer
Arboretum
for
collection.
yeah, he was a photographer for Star Wars Insider, and he set up these things. It's the Imperial shuttle with 1,000 stormtroopers. He'd have all the stormtroopers there, and they'd all be out of the box, but they'd be in just great condition because it's not like he played with them. He just put them on display, and we have those in the bagged and tagged. And I think it's interesting with the bagged and tagged that it's really a testament because obviously they're not in the box anymore, so it's not like they have that much value. It's just a testament to which are people's favorite characters, and a lot of those are the rare clones or the rare stormtroopers and such.
I also think it's funny going back to whatever characters or people latch on to in the toys. You talk about Vader, you talk about Boba Fett. I don't think it was any mistake that the very first figure put out on the Black Series was Boba Fett at San Diego Comic-Con. They had the big, what was it, Fett and the Han and Carbonite?
Right, exactly.
Right.
San Diego Comic-Con.
Which was a beautiful.
Well put. Well
And
put.
we want to thank that vehicle who was letting his engine run for the past 15 minutes up front. Thank you for coming by, and please come back and see us again. But this is why we need. This is why, and all I've been doing is joking around and being a smart aleck this whole time. But to be totally serious, I think it's good to go ahead and plug us. We are order66toys.net. And talking about the loose figures when you come in here that we picked up from this photographer, we have everything, almost anything you're looking for. We've got it here, and you need to search our website. And you need to, if you're in the McKinney area, just north of Dallas, you need to come see us.
Well, another thing that if you're into comic books, and who isn't, we are listed. We actually have a full one-page ad in the next 49 issues. So anything that's produced by Marvel Comics under the title of Star Wars, which includes Darth Vader, the new
Princess Leia.
Princess Leia,
Kanan, the last Padawan.
Kanan. But any of those titles, if you're interested in knowing anything else about Order 66 Toys, just pick up one of the comic books. Take a look in there, look at the ad. It'll have links to our Facebook, to our website pages.
And Twitter.
And Twitter, of course.
And soon this podcast.
And soon this podcast.
I'm sure edited. But we always say, well, another shameless plug. No, it's not. You know what? This is what the show is about. It's about Order 66 Toys in the grand scheme of things, and we want you to come here, and we want you to investigate what we have here.
And this is your formal invitation to come out to the store.
Absolutely.
I just like talking about figures.
Be our guest.
Please buy our flicks.
Service the test.
You know what's interesting too is there's another side of the spectrum where there's stuff that is Star Wars that no one wants. It doesn't matter how much of it there is or how few of it is, nobody wants it. I mean, there are things that people will bring them in, and they think that they've been collecting these things, and they matter to them because they collected them, but they really don't have a lot of value with other collectors that we've found, at least at this juncture.
Guys, a little bit of insight. If it says Hamilton Mint on it, it's probably not that good.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. There's a lot of items that have been produced, with the licensing, official licensing and everything for Star Wars, but they just don't hold their value because there's not a lot of collectors out there that want it.
It's funny you should mention that, though, because I remember us having a conversation about the Millennium Falcon that was released under the Rebels label, and how it's simply just like a display item. Not a lot of people went out and bought them for that reason. It's like you can't play with it. You couldn't put any of anybody inside of it or nothing. No stickers came with it. But
little do they know that they're dried up all over the place now, and soon they will become very collectible because the box is
Exactly.
nice, and somebody will be wanting to complete the Rebels collection. It'll be the
Absolutely.
elusive Falcon that no one has because no one bought it, and that's exactly why some of the figures back in the early days are so rare. Like the Princess Leia 12-inch doll, I told my mother I did not want it. It was in a $5 bin, and no one wanted it because you look at the back, and there was like 8 different ways that you could do her hairstyle, and nobody that was my age, that was a guy, wanted that.
Great. Thank you, Kenner, for that, by the way, too. Because every single Princess Leia doll that we ever get in the store now,
Sells fast.
not only do they sell fast, but they have the worst hair day ever.
Well, only the ones that have been opened, the ones that are intact, are so rare and so expensive because that original hairstyle is murder to put back together. It's almost impossible to get it back to its factory.
But the ones who
hairstyle.
buy it are the old men in long overcoats. And they,
James, I have one.
like I said,
The old man in long overcoats.
Who you call? Who's scruffy looking?
so who you call an old man?
Herder.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that.
Get up to
because,
the mic, Liam.
I had a similar situation is with the Lars Homestead, which is
Absolutely.
one of the more rare, display sort of
Playsets.
Playsets.
Why is
Thank
it
you.
Toys
rare?
R Us exclusive. I think.
It's a Toys R Us exclusive, and I remember seeing it in the store, when I was like 10, 11 years old, and
There's something interesting about that playset too.
it is the only Star Wars playset to feature a Womp Rat. But anyway, it was one that I remember seeing, and I almost bought it, and then I didn't, and then now it's one of the more expensive playsets in the store just because it's rare, and I think, like you said, it's not one that originally a lot of people were interested in, but now
Well, and it was a store exclusive as well.
it was a store exclusive.
You can only
Well,
buy it at
we-
one retailer.
We talk about how we look at the black box items, or the new Black Series, and if you go to enough stores, you'll see the items that are left on the shelf. But what's funny is those items that are left on the shelf usually become the rarest and most collectible
I've told
of that
Josh
series.
this. I told Josh this. You know what the rarest figure is going to be out of them all?
Go ahead.
It's going to be the Slave Leia, and I'll tell you because no one's buying it. I see it everywhere, and always the figures that are left are always the ones that dry up quick at the end. And
Not-
that figure has only been produced in one wave, 1 out of 4 in that case, and it is going to be worth some good bucks because
Not only-
it's a Slave Leia figure.
Not only that, but the idea that they have stayed on the shelves for that long. They get the shelfware, they get banged up, the corners get messed up. They get damaged in some respect, so that when a collector actually has the opportunity to purchase these later, they're not in that great a condition, even though they are brand new.
Well, and the other thing is too is people do lots of accessories, and Jabba the Hutt, the slave room Jabba the Hutt that was a San Diego exclusive. If you want to complete that setup, you got to buy the
Slave girl
layout.
with it.
Absolutely.
Did you have something to add, Robert? There's something you were wanting to say just a minute ago.
I'm not sure if this is relevant to the discussion or not, but when I was 7 and the 38th anniversary line was still in production, I really wanted action figures of Darth Revan and Darth Malak, which
Absolutely.
came out at the time. And so I found both of them at a Toys R Us once, and and my mom said I could have both, so that was like the best day of my life. I took them home, I ripped them out of the card, I played with them, I lost their lightsabers, their hands, and like Darth Malak fell between the cracks of my bed and
No!
and, like they just got destroyed. And now Darth Revan is going for what, $120?
Yeah.
Darth Malak is $60?
Robert, as part of the collectible community, we thank you
We do
for your
thank you,
contribution.
Yes, that's
You have helped make that figure better. Thank you very much.
And for future reference, we'll refer to Robert's bedroom as the Sarlacc pit.
It is.
It is a
Truly
Sarlacc
is.
pit.
things have disappeared and we've never found them again. So, yeah.
We need to send Boba Fett in to rescue him. Wow, this has been an absolute.
Had this been fun? Had this been fun?
This has been an amazing 26 minutes that we have covered absolutely nothing.
It'll probably be edited to 24.
Well, this is kind of like at the TV show that was about nothing.
This was the force hits the snooze button, as Robert put it.
Everybody has a role. Liam and Chuck are intellectuals. Jeff reins it in. Laney always
Laney's
chips in some
Laney.
good.
Laney's the
George-
host.
George Martin is the producer. Robert has added some, and I'm the smartass. So that's the way. That's just how you need
Laney's
to picture
our,
it.
for no better term, executive director of awesomeness.
Thank you.
That's right.
James is the one that Joey has to go in and edit out whatever
That's
he says.
right.
You know,
Flex is our writer.
there is one.
Flicks is our executive producer.
There is one thing I would like to say though about collecting in general. You know, we've talked about what makes something valuable, what doesn't. You know,
Really, we have.
desire. Well, we have. But
We
the
kind
thing
of
is,
have, but we kind of have.
I think at the core, what everybody should know is and keep true to their heart is, it means something if it means something to you. Collect what you
Absolutely.
like. If you don't like it and don't enjoy it, don't collect it because it's going up in the price guide. Collect something that you love. And by and large, there's other people that are going to love it too. And in time, it could be valuable. Because there was stuff that I collected when I was a kid that I was told by my parents, what are you... And my parents came from a collecting background. They had antiques. They had all kinds of stuff. They had an antique store for most of my childhood. So it's not like they didn't have stuff that they were collecting. And I was told, don't collect that. That's garbage. And now that stuff that they told me was garbage is very valuable to a lot of people.
How many?
And it didn't stay that way, forever.
How many times have we seen families walk into the store and the mom or dad say, no, you can't get that. That's collectible. Well, we have items in the store, and this is no fibbing, that start at $2.50 a piece. So you can walk in here and leave with a loose action figure that your child, family member can play with and enjoy for $2.50. We have items in here from the early 90s, from 1995, in the original packages. And I mean just about any character, maybe minus Boba Fett or Grievous or Ahsoka,
But most of them are $7 to $10.
that are $7 to $10. And we encourage the children to play with these because we're a toy store and we sell toys. And the overall happiness of our customers is first and foremost with anything that we do. So
This is a great store. And I will continue to promote it and to push it and say we are the best store out there. And we've got the best Star Wars collection. And we really, really want you to come out here to McKinney, Texas.
and just a great staff.
It's nice when we make kiddos happy. I mean, it's the best thing, I mean, it's great when we have a collector that comes in and finds a piece that they hold dear and put it in their collection and going to hermetically seal it and put it up in their vaults or on their wall forever and protect it. But it's even more special when we get one of the youngsters in here that was, 5 years old or 7 years old and comes in here and just starts collecting or just starts, just buying the figures for what their intended purpose is. And that's just to have fun with them.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is, having adults that'll recollect on their childhood because of some of the figures.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, the nostalgia. Like, I believe a while ago we had, it was a biker, correct? Who came in to the store and he just started crying when he was coming in there because this was just something that was so important to him as a child.
We've already
Yeah,
covered
we refer to them as vehicular impaired. That's
He came and said,
don't call them- we don't call them-
oh my God.
It happened during Oktoberfest.
we don't call them bikers anymore. We call them vehicular impaired. But go ahead.
Oh, well, I made my point, so I'll just stop
It
talking.
was very good. It did. And this reminds me, Jeff, of side 4 of the White Album.
Side for the
You know
wall.
how it started petering out at the end with the Revolution number 9, the 8 minutes
Number
of the
9.
backward tape
Number
loops. I
9.
think we're getting to that point now, don't you?
We're getting to that point.
Yeah.
So how can they reach us if they want to ask a
That's
question
a
about
great
the podcast?
question.
Well, At this point, you can go to our website, which is order66toys.net. You can contact us via the internet, which is order66unleashed at yahoo.com. You can always send us your questions, possible topics for a future show, should you like those. If we use those, we'd be happy to send you a little something from Order 66 Toys as our thank you.
You can also Instagram us and tweet at us at Order 66 Toys.
Facebook and
What's our phone
all
number?
the bit.
I don't know a phone number. I don't remember. I don't call it.
Our phone number for the store.
Don't know our phone number, you can just contact us through this crazy new thing called the internet.
My goodness. I have a cell phone. It still has a rotary dial on it. If you'd like to call us, it's the phone number at the store is 214-519-3979. If some crazy guy that sounds like me answers the phone, please hang.
Don't trust them.
Whatever you do,
Call the local police.
don't ask him.
Get an Amber Alert when you call the number.
Don't ask him anything too serious or too important, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help you out.
And if you walk into the store and he starts, he holds out a penny and a nickel, just walk away.
No, you got to experience it at least once. Once is enough, but at least once. Well, that's about
wonder-
wraps it up, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's a wrap.
For Sons of the Order, we'd like to thank you. My name is Jeff.
Robert?
I'm James.
Lainey.
And Chuck?
Joey.
Liam.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, shut up, Liam.
I'm your special guest star, Liam Neeson.
May the force be with you.
And also with you.
Hare Krishna.